I call Tamatha Paul.
E te maunga te whare. Thank you for allowing us to take a call on this, and I will be supporting this bill on behalf of Te Pāti Kākariki, but I do want to acknowledge the speaker before me for her insights and for her honest and raw kōrero. I know that it can be confronting for some to hear, but I'm glad that you are speaking truth to that, given that victims weren't able to speak truth to that for a long time during the election. So, in terms of this bill, this is about people who have been victims of sexual violence, and when reading about the bill and following it through, it reminded me of a time in 2020 when I supported a large group of women here in Wellington who had been sexually abused by a prominent musician group in our city. And that was really hard because so many of those young women didn't want to speak up because they wanted to protect their own identities. Some wanted to go through the court system, some didn't. Some just wanted accountability. Some were afraid of accusing people with big names of the sexual harm that they had caused. And that was a blockage to their path towards the justice that they wanted. So very much aware of the barriers that exist within our justice system for victims of sexual violence who are pursuing different pathways of justice. And when we talk about victims, there's not one solitary kind of uniform path that all victims want to take. Sometimes it is in the courts and sometimes it's not. But I can understand why a large number of victims of sexual violence do not choose to go through the courts, and that's because of the scrutiny that they're subjected to. It's always, you know, what were you wearing? What were you doing? What did you do to encourage someone else to violate your rights? And that to me is wrong. But it's even more wrong and sinister and cruel to do that to children because their brains are still developing. They're still trying to understand the world. They see everything in those positive lights, and to cross-examine a child about something that happened to them of such a disgusting just inexcusable nature is wrong. So I'm glad that we are supporting this bill today so that children don't have to defend themselves in courtrooms for violence that happens towards them. And I wanted to also note a case that went through the courts in October last year, which was between ACC and a woman who had been sexually abused during her childhood from the ages of 2 years old to 17 years old. And at the time last year, if you had been the victim of sexual violence as a child, you weren't able to be compensated for that violence and for the loss that it caused you in your adulthood if you didn't report that violence as a child. And thanks to this brave woman and her legal team, in particular Beatrix, one of her lawyers, they appealed that decision by the courts. They took it to the Court of Appeal, and now any survivors of sexual violence who were violated as children are able to be compensated due to that. And that could look like 100,000 people being eligible for support from ACC to the sum of $3.6 billion. So that's a really great thing that is also happening to support victims of sexual violence. I just wanted to conclude our support for this bill by acknowledging some local organisations here in Wellington who made really great submissions on this bill. It wasn't an easy topic to hear about at all. Discussions of consent and children and their experiences in the courtroom. It was really difficult to listen to, but I'm grateful for the advocates and the experts from Toanest, from Thursdays in Black, and from Wellington Sexual Abuse Help who helped to inform this conversation. I finally want to say thank you to our Labour whānau over here for bringing this bill to the House in the first instance and for making these discreet changes to our legal system which will protect survivors and make sure that especially children aren't re-traumatised and re-victimised in their pursuit of justice for them. So, kia ora koutou katoa.